my book, but you have that book. So we need 2 books. Here's the book you use. Was I using that to use?
Hello, everybody. We're live.
Oh. Why are we live?
Well, I hit the button, so I just figured we had our shit together, but we didn't.
Page 123.
Yep. Hello, everybody. How you doing? My name is Jason F. Smith. I'm here with my son Asher. Page 123. We're in the chapter "Murder Me," and we literally stopped in the mid-paragraph last time.
Yeah. It's just frustrating when we tried to find a place.
We couldn't find our place. The word was unverifiable. That caused us some fun problems. Okay, so recap of the Murder Me chapter was a little bit, he's talking with Julie, right? Down by the boathouse.
Yeah.
And we had that wonderful, if in hell I could hold one curl of your hair, I think the saints in heaven torment by Rumi.
Yeah.
Which related to Sanaya.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it was about devotion to Krishna.
Okay. Okay, everybody, here we go. We're going to launch right into this. I'm going to start from the beginning of the paragraph. So she says, so I'm not sitting here. And he says, no, you don't know that either. All this doesn't mean that what seems to be isn't, just that it's unverifiable. You could say that it's highly likely you're sitting here, but that's not true either. There's no particular likelihood whatsoever that your perception of reality has any basis in reality. Damn, that's a little freaky.
Right. Yeah, so, well, in the previous session, the reason we stopped is because I was like making connections that I'm now not making, and that's annoying me. Trying to understand. So it's like more about the wormhole. Truly amazing that something so glaring that it's so universally ignored.
We're getting it.
So you could say that it's highly likely that you're sitting there, but that's not true either. There's no particular likelihood whatsoever that your perception has any basis in reality.
Yeah, this is interesting to me. I think I mentioned this in the last video, because his belief that he's stated over and over again, or at least his knowledge, is that this doesn't exist. There's no verifiable way.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
That doesn't exist.
There's something.
But now he's admitting that he can't actually prove that it doesn't, which is kind of a little bit of a loophole.
So when he says, yeah, I mean, I guess that's the only thing on having to do with Jed's curriculum in general, is that he's just like, he says like, it's clearly a dream and it's made up, but you have to come see that for yourself. But even then you're not, there is no objective knowledge that it is a dream.
That's true. We can't objectively know. Where does that get us, though?
Yeah,
question, right?
In the math equation that is the topics.
Yeah, in the math equation.
What does that mean?
If we define truth as he does in the book, The Theory of Everything, then this is not true. That's logic. He's logic this out. Damn, that's a little freaky. You're not the usual spiritual teacher talking about higher states of consciousness and deeper states of love, I see. Nah, I don't go there. I'm more a truth guy. Your magazine doesn't cover all this stuff? Not really. We're more about ascended masters and channeled entities and prophecy and yoga and all that stuff. And Tantra. Oh yes, she laughs. Tantra sells magazines. Well, we've touched on right action, solipsism, bhakti yoga, Sannyasa style, and Billy Jack, I say, but am interrupted as lightning sizzles through the sky above the buildings across the river, and the already heavy rainfall seems to double in an instant. The battering drops of rain give the normally languid river a tumultuous appearance that jibes well with the raging skies. We stop talking for a while and just enjoy the show. What's next? I ask when the storm settles down a bit. Okay, she says, referring to her notes and then leaning into the microphone at my collar to speak. You're enlightened, but you obviously have an ego. Isn't that a contradiction? Doesn't the ego have to be annihilated to achieve nirvana? Oh, I coo appreciatively. Good question. Both are true. Yes, I have an ego, and it looks similar to the one I dropped, too. So, as you say, achieve nirvana. But then I came back all enlightened and everything, and I needed something to wear. I look around and there's my discarded ego lying in a pile on the floor, so I slip into it and here I am. This is something a lot of students and seekers get hung up on, and there's really no satisfactory answer except to say, come see for yourself. Ramana Maharishi addressed it this way. The I casts off the illusion of I and yet remains as I. Such is the paradox of self-realization. The realized do not see any contradiction in it. The unrealized, however, do see a contradiction, but frankly, the unrealized see a lot of things that aren't there. I continue answering Julie's question. You've probably heard the saying, before enlightenment, a mountain is a mountain. During enlightenment, a mountain is not a mountain. And after enlightenment, a mountain is a mountain again. Well, it's like that. Before enlightenment, I believe my ego was me. Then enlightenment comes along and no more ego, only the underlying reality. Now it's after enlightenment, and this ego might be slightly uncomfortable or ill-fitting at times, but it's all I've got. The idea that your ego is destroyed in the process of becoming enlightened is roughly correct, but it's not complete. Before enlightenment, you're a human being in the world, just like everyone you see. During enlightenment, you realize the human being you thought you were is just a character in a play, and that the world you thought you were in is just a stage. So you go through a process of radical deconstruction of your character to see what's left when it's gone. The result isn't self-enlightenment self or true self, it's no self. When it's all over, it's time to be a human being in the world again. And that means slipping back into costume and getting back on stage. But now you know, sure, because now you're actually in the audience watching the drama. I could never mistake the play for reality again, or my character for my true state. Happily, I never know what my character is going to say or do until he does it or says it. So the whole thing stays interesting. There still seems to be a lot of contradictions. First, we can't know anything. It's all contradictions. Whitman said, do I contradict myself? Very well then, I contradict myself. I am large, I contain multitudes. He was addressing the inherent problems of discussing this stuff. As far as not being able to know anything, that's just a starting point of inquiry, like taking stock of your gear before beginning a long hike. If you're going on a voyage of self-discovery, you'd want to start by saying, okay, what do I know for a fact? What is absolutely certain? And that's what the cogito is. I wish we could start a fire. Huh? A fire? Yeah, right here on the terrace. A small bonfire, a bottle of wine, this storm. It's really a delightful moment. I feel like we're wasting it with all this talk. Do you have a note?
I just really like the line. What I underlined was it's just a starting point of inquiry, because he doesn't really like, I don't know, I guess it's like a sentence and he's like referring to it, not as like a direct instruction, but that is still like good information.
Yeah. The problem is it's also the end of inquiry.
What do you mean?
Well, if that's all you know, then you're just wasting your time doing anything else.
Oh.
I've had that problem. I've solved that to my satisfaction. Someone is seeing something, or more accurately, something is experiencing something. Consciousness is happening. That's clear. Everything else is not. Now, what do? I'm enlightened. I just don't seem to be completely enlightened because I think I'm still attached to my ego. I know clearly that I'm not me, that I'm a character on stage. I know that, but I don't know it like he knows it.
Yeah, I mean, it's the emotional attachments to the thing in the hologram that makes your brain think the hologram is real. It's your emotional attachment to that.
Like the dog. It's an equal attachment and repulsion.
I guess.
You know what I know?
Not bark like an asshole.
We will be getting him in 30 seconds.
I guess we'll see.
So we sit quietly and watch the storm for a while. Julie is a good storm watcher. You can tell good storm watchers because they're lucky. Without any conscious effort, they're always looking in the right place at the right time. They don't have to snap their heads around and say, oh, I missed that great bolt of lightning, because they were looking right there when it happened. I just want to say, this piece here has fucked me up for a good 10 years now.
Yeah.
Anytime there's a storm, I've discovered that apparently I'm just not a good fucking storm watcher.
Yeah,
And then I start to watch more.
I wish he hadn't put that in.
And then I start to watch more intently, and I'm trying to see the lightning is going, and I'm like, I don't want to miss it. So I stare at blackness for 5 minutes just to see one. The way he's describing it, oh, they just look around. They just, oh, there's one, oh, there's one. That's not me.
I feel like it's messed with my head more than anything.
Jane Roberts said that miracles are nature unimpeded, which is a good way of saying that if you take your hand off the tiller, the boat will steer itself and do a vastly better job of it than you ever could. Julie seems to have that ability to relax into the moment and let the universe do the driving. If there was a secret to happiness in life, I'd say that was it. We were closer than I thought today.
Yeah, I guess so.
But remember we had a time limit.
Yeah. That was the end of that chapter.
Mm-hmm.
Murder Me. Okay.
Should we stop the video and start it again?
For titling purposes or
For
something?
titling purpose, or just go back and lengthen the title of this?
If we can just change the titles.
Okay. Want to read the poem?
So the next poem is called The Unlocked Cage. If you're not amazed by how naive you were yesterday, you're standing still. If you're not terrified of the next step, your eyes are closed. If you're standing still and your eyes are closed, then you're only dreaming that you're awake. A caged bird in a boundless sky. Jed McKenna.
Yeah, Aziz, that's me. That's fucked me up too. I was like, because he says it later with Julie in the next book. Like, oh, I looked at myself yesterday. I was such a fucking idiot. And tomorrow it's impossible. Oh, yesterday I was such a fucking, tomorrow's impossible. I'm like, I mean, I have a general sense that I was a fucking idiot yesterday, right?
Yeah, but
do you know what I mean? Like as a child?
That description is, as I understood it, would be meant as a signpost for you to understand if you even are making progress, is the idea that you look back at what your previous assumptions and thoughts and understandings were and realize you've moved beyond them in some way.
Yeah, and the truth is, I am probably not making any progress. And then a number of years later, I'll be like, whoa, why didn't I get this? And so I'm sitting here going, there's something to get, but I'm just not getting it. Like it'll happen when it happens, and then boom, I'll look back and go, oh man, that's what that meant. Stoner voice. That's what that meant, dude. Man. Okay. So we did the Unlocked Cage poem, and now we're going to Codename
Beatrice.
Beatrice. Oh, this is the sandwich, right?
I don't know. I don't do this. My birthplace is placelessness. My sign is to have and give no sign. You say you see my mouth, ears, eyes, nose. They are not mine. I am the life of life. I am that cat, this stone, no one. I have thrown duality away like an old dish rag. I see and know all times and worlds. As one, always one. Rumi.
See, that's a pretty poem, but I don't know what the fuck it means. I mean, this is kind of more of an enlightened thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like an enlightenment poem.
Okay.
The storm abates, and we decide that all of our good interview work has earned us a meal. She wants her magazine to pay, but I ask nicely if I can buy it. She says yes. With me pushing my bike, we cross over the swollen and muddy river and make our way to the heart of town, where there are several good restaurants to choose from. Can we continue the interview? She asks. Sure, I say. Can we go back to where we started for a minute and talk about right action? Sure. You hear the term right action used a lot in spiritual circles. It's one of the steps on Buddhism's eightfold path. But I don't think that you mean rules of abstinence. Hold on, do you have a triangle, like a reading triangle?
Mm-hmm. I do.
Because I keep. Or yes. Ooh, Jesus. There.
The universe provides.
But I don't think you mean rules of abstinence. Right action always sounds like a term for some higher heart-centered morality, but you make it sound very specific, and I guess not so moral. If it would allow you to murder someone. Do you know what agape is? Yes, it's like the highest form of love, divine love. Yes, that's what everyone thinks, but it's not really. It's one of those things you can't understand until you have the direct experience of it. Love as we know it is like a shadow of agape, like the candlelight flickering on the wall and not the flame itself. It's a very different thing at its source. But love is the closest representation of agape available, so that's what it gets translated as. Right action is the same deal. Morality is just a shadow of right action. Right action isn't the highest degree of morality any more than agape is the highest degree of love. When you understand and are able to act from right action, morality is no longer necessary. It's instantly obsolete and discarded. This is at the heart of the Bhagavad Gita. Arjuna is a moral creature, throws down his weapon and refuses to launch a war. Krishna converts him to a creature of right action by freeing him from delusion, and Arjuna takes up his weapon and launches the war. Right action has nothing to do with right or wrong, good or evil, naughty or nice. It is without altruism or compassion. Morality is the set of rules and regulations that you use to navigate through life when you're still trying to steer your ship rather than let it follow the flow. No shit? I laugh. No shit. The Tao says when the great Tao is forgiven. Oh, isn't that pronounced differently?
I was going to let you finish, and then I was going to tell you that.
What is it?
Tao.
With a D?
With a D. I'm not messing with you. You know what would be funny if I convinced you it was with a K.
That is funny. I didn't think about if you were fucking with me. And I just said, yeah, the Tao was like, dude, it's surely a fucking T, man.
The cow says, when the great cow is forgotten,
That's
kindness
funny.
and morale. It is with a D, though.
It's a level of subterfuge I wouldn't have even considered.
Shit. The cow. You can imagine if you convince someone of that. Oh, shit.
I laugh. No shit. The Tao says, when the great Tao
It's forgotten.
is forgotten, kindness and morality arise. That's what it means. No shit? You kiss your mother with that mouth? So, like, your character's up on the stage, and he's fulfilling his role. He sees the future flowing towards him, and he moves with it. He's not stopping to consult someone's book of rules.
So that's been listening to a lot of Abraham Hicks, Esther Hicks, and she's like, she talks about the flow of right action just constantly. Like, if you want to know what he means, this is what she's talking about it constantly. Yeah. And one of her big things is, when did you ever stop and consider what anyone else was thinking? The peanut gallery. Just stop. You never think about what anyone is thinking. How are you feeling? And it's weird because I've been listening to it for a while, and you read these books and you get this energy from these people, right? And you don't worry. But when you hear it straight up without like a safety of getting to know these people, they're literally just telling you to stop ever considering other people. Ever. You go with right action, period. And so it kind of can sound dangerous.
Oh, like.
Yeah.
A way of living that would be harming others.
Yeah, I mean, you could take it there, right? You could go the wrong way with it. But that's not what it's about. This is like never care what other people are thinking. Like, for instance, so many people, the last one I heard in an integrated state of flow right action, she was just talking. She's all like, so many people go, it has to be hard. You got to work hard. She goes, when did you believe that shit? What? And she goes on and on about how flow just happens and it's easy. And it's just, you're listening to bullshit in your head. And the other big one is like, well, I got enough. I got enough.
Got enough what?
Whatever. That we just stop more from coming because we start to feel a little guilty. I'm reading in politics right now. I mean, everyone, the Democrats are really after people, you can have too much money. You can have too much money. Yeah. And I'm sitting there going, can you?
Definitely.
No, that's a socialist fucking thinking. That's a limit on the joy and amount of goodness you can have. And they say, well, you're evil, you're hurting the world. But what if you just collect money and don't hurt the world and hire people and buy lots of shit? What if you have 13 billion or 70 billion and you just buy houses and lots of people come and build houses and you buy lots of cars and people sell you cars? Why is that wrong? Mm-hmm. As a spiritual feeling of more, Esther Hicks will go right at you and slit your throat for thinking, well, I have enough. You'll never have enough. You'll always want more in this.
I think the point, that's like kind of the point of being a human, is like if there was such thing as enough, then you'd be done. You'd be done with everything ever. Yeah. Oh,
Well, you got to think that you're an infinite creature who has everything, God, consciousness, and you came here and purposely put yourself at lack so that you could get it again and have fun watching that and be entertained by it.
It'd be like, I guess if you when you read your favorite book ever for the first time and then it's amazing, and then later you're reading it and it's like, man, I wish I could. There's some things that you wish you could read for the first time again or consume for the first time again. I've had some things like that.
See,
that's what God is like with all of existence.
You don't have to worry about this. You're young. When you get to be my age, you pick up that book that was so good and you're like, I don't remember this shit, and it's new again. I'm not being funny.
I've already done some of that a little bit to myself.
Okay, well, it gets more and more. Because you're just pounding so much in. But you think about it, how can you read a book? For me, I think there's a couple books that we both like together, but more than once. And I'm not talking knowledge books. I'm talking books that surprise you and have great characters. And sometimes you just want to spend time with the characters. And sometimes you just want to see how the plot unfolds, even though you know.
But I have detected. So in my working of this basically a whole year of listening to 8+ hours of audio every single day. I've re-listened to novels. I re-listened to novels this summer that back in January I had listened to already. Yeah, and it was interesting because there's definitely a rate. There's a rate in your brain of data, loss. Not corruption, loss, but it's on purpose because the idea being that if you could ever just perfectly imagine or perfectly remember everything about anything, then you would think about it and experience it right then. So much so you wouldn't be motivated to continue forward to do it again. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, I think we're tapping into something really interesting, and that is in our shared experience of semi-forgetting in our brain, God's going, yeah, you got it. That's why I'm doing this. See, I know everything. I'm consciousness. I'm infinite. I got as much gold, jewelry, and yachts, and I got it all. Got girls, got guys, whatever. I got it all. There's nothing I don't have. And I have perfect memory of every single bit of it, so much so that in infinite it turns white. So I turn it finite, and I am here having fun just like you are. But I happen to be having fun in your head. The difference is you sometimes, and I used you as a vehicle of stupidity to ride, and you think you're real. That's the problem. Once you stop that, then you can have a better ride too, along with your higher source. There is a higher power, right? It's the consciousness that's riding you. I'm using God, non-religious stuff, but right? But Asher or Jason, when they really don't realize that they're just being used abusively, by the way, often for God's entertainment. No.
But I guess the whole
But you
point-
can win by waking up.
Well, and by, I guess, understanding the nature of the system that we're in, which is drama.
Yeah, and the other thing
Things
that
are exciting.
yeah,
Things don't want to be boring.
and the
If
other
the planet
thing,
wanted to be boring, it wouldn't have made humans.
and the other thing that you can add on to that is, as much as you are a poor, abused fucking slave that God gets to ride around and watch, it's not too much different than watching Neo get the shit kicked out of him. I mean, he's a poor, abused slave in the Matrix for us.
Yeah.
Luke, Han Solo in the Empire Strikes Back gets beaten, tortured, and frozen. Yeah, I love that movie. Fuck you, Han. You died. You know, if Han were us, he got fucked so I could be entertained, which is what I'm being. I'm being fucked so God can be entertained. The difference is I don't have to be here, so I can find gratitude in that. And like Jed, I can finally go, well, I'm grateful that I'm here. I get that I'm just abused little rat in your maze, but I have enough self-awareness that I'm going to start to co-create, because I can co-create because I am God. So I can start to wring hold of it. I can start to get a hold of it and get choice. Because God's here as a little upman going, well, I want choice. I want to build something. I want to create satisfaction. I want to gain something. I'm pretending I don't have all the money in the world. I'm pretending. So my joy now is not to sit in lack, but to build it again. To build it again. To go get it again. And by get it again, he never had to get it in the first place because he was all one. She, it.
Yeah.
So when you ride on that one, you're like, oh, I'm supposed to be in lack. I can have fun here. Let's go get some fucking money. Or let's go get some sex. Or let's go get books. Or let's do a video. Or let's create something. And guess what? Enjoy the fuck out of that ride and literally build something. And I mean, speaking to what you do, you build fucking walls. Right?
Right now. That is what I do.
Right now. And I did one once with you when we started this. We talked about this. I admit, I took a bunch of fucking rocks that were just shit on the ground. And when it was done, and while I was doing it, it was cool. And when it was done, I felt satisfaction. And I told you, it was so satisfying to build that wall. If they paid me $500 a day, I'd just be a fucking wall builder because I like taking random chaos and putting it into order. I like it a lot. Unfortunately, it didn't pay enough to spend all my time doing it.
And finding pieces that fit.
And making them and being creative and coming around. I mean, and making not just the fit, but making it look good.
Yeah.
Right? You were like, oh, this one. He has rocks stored to the side. He said, this is a good one. There'll be a time to use this. What? Wait for it. And then it's now. It's right there. And you're like, he's right. It's there.
Yes.
It's fun. If it weren't for the scarcity of making money and being cold, and you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Which is what I think one of the goals why are we writing this fucking book, right? Because we like it? No, because we want to create enough fucking money so that we could build and manifest comfort so that we can start building walls or representative walls of whatever they may be, taking chaos and putting into it, probably in the form of businesses.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Without the scarcity. And so.
But the scarcity is just part of the, isn't it just like part of the system?
Sure. But we don't want to play that. We don't like that. I mean, there's a game of
it's hard because
there's beggars going, give me a bowl, give me a food, give me a chunk of rice. That's their story, and they get that rice and they're happy. We want to do different stuff, and I think most people listening to fucking YouTube want to too.
True. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're gloriously, happily, greedily, happily searching for enough money because money equals that freedom to go build whatever else we want. That's why we want it. Tons of shit in money, just tons, just fucking more money than appropriate. And it's the symbol of that. You have that money, and then you can start doing whatever else you want to do.
Yeah, but my guess is that just like anything, it'd be like, it's like anything. Maybe we'll be able to come back and speak to this video later, but when you get, it would just be like another level of difficulty in my brain. What's the phrase that people say? More money, more problems.
Yeah, see, okay, again, and I'm just spitting some shit out, like Esther Hicks would just tell you to go fuck off. That is a program in your head. She would examine that lie. That was the peanut gallery that put that fucking problem in your head.
Well,
of course, she's saying making money is really easy too.
You misunderstand. I'm saying you framing the discussion what we were just talking about as once I get that,
and we would love those problems.
Then I won't have problems, but getting that will have its own problems as well.
Yeah. Okay. No, I didn't mean there's no problems. Yeah. It'd be a different level of problems, and we'd love them. We'd go, oh my God, the $1 million house is sloping down. Remember that house up in Midway? It's sloping down because the slope's failure is awesome. We got to fix this. It's going to cost $1 million. I got to get up there. Awesome new contrast. That keeps us going. We want contrast. Super want it.
We just don't want to be operating like a place of fear and feeling,
the fear is unpleasant, right? The journey to making a lot of money is really fun, and getting there going, I did it. I manifested this money. I'm responsible. Jason God Peace, made this fucking happen. I got clear on what I wanted, and I allowed that to manifest. Like he said, I let go of the tiller, and life just brought it to me. And I went, fuck yeah! And I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Right? I just enjoy it. And now I'm going to do something else because life never stops.
True.
Unless you get kind of like Jed kind of went so far into, we're talking about that step down, the fourth state, integrated state. He's that fifth thing out there that is enlightenment, where he's kind of bored.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He doesn't have.
Yeah. Unless we were to get into it, unless we were to get enlightened, go all the way, we'll just be integrated and we're not going to get bored.
Yeah.
If we build a big business that works, we'll build another one. If we build a house that we like, we'll build another one. If we build a small garden that we like, if we have a nice recipe for meatloaf and we think we can perfect it, we'll do it.
Makes sense.
Okay. 131, somewhere at the top. Ish.
Okay. And he's fulfilling his role. He sees the future flowing towards him and he moves with it. He's not stopping to consult someone's book of rules. So if the flow tells you to launch a war, sure, you'll launch a war.
Now let me say something about this that's really, I want to say this is pretty important.
Yeah.
So if the flow says to launch the war, that makes it sound like the flow is outside yourself.
Yeah, that's very irritating, actually. The way that he has worded that has caused some interference, I feel, in attempts in understanding.
Yeah, so a piece of this clarity that I'm getting, and this is wonderful, the journey I'm on, because it's been 10 years, because I've been waiting for the flow, looking out there, and now what I look for is the better way to say it. So if I feel like launching a war, and that makes me happy, then I'm going to launch a war. Yeah. It's me.
Yeah, it's not
this outside godlike force. That language really makes it sound like it's someone other than me. And
it makes it, well, what it does is it puts our vocabulary brains into the idea of consultation, as in I'm coming to God to then ask a question, and then God's going to tell me. It's like, hey man, the whole fucking point of the book is that you are all one thing. There's no going and asking.
Yeah.
All right.
So, Jed, on version 2 or 3 or whatever version you're on this book, you want to edit that. Thank you. Get on that real quick.
She pauses to wonder, to ponder. I think I'm like that at times, in the flow, but not always, not in the big things. I think I'd be scared to set my morality aside. That's perfectly natural. It's a trust you develop a little at a time as you learn to relinquish the illusion of control. Is that what people like Soneya or, devoutly religious people are doing? Very much so. Basically, the act of faith in something other than self allows you to release the tiller, to surrender. Whatever the reason for doing it, whatever name you give the new steering agent or agency, it's going to be a very positive change because it's going to be the infinite and unerring intelligence of the universe that takes over.
Yeah, I mean, by the way, what's funny? The other day I saw a Esther Hicks video. She does 15-minute clips, and it said, Abraham Hicks speaks on infinite intelligence. I was like, because that's a phrase that I learned from Jed.
Yeah.
So I just got excited. That was pretty cool.
But you didn't actually. Oh, okay.
I had heard her mention it once before, and I actually haven't gotten to that video yet.
That's what I was wondering if you would have.
But she's saying exactly this right here. But she's saying that you have an inner being who's God, who's source, and he's you, and he loves you, and he's inside you. So it's not an outside thing.
Yeah.
And yeah.
So, like born again Christians, right? They have abandoned the illusion of control. It doesn't matter why you do it, just that you do it. This is the point of distinction and the root teaching of all major religions. Christians say, not mine, but thy will be done. Hindus say, Brahma is the charioteer. Muslims say, it is the will of Allah. It's all the same thing. Fear and ego, in other words, ignorance, are keeping your hand on the tiller. Release the tiller for whatever reason, the steering takes care of itself. So when people talk about being off the path, then they're just reading the terrain from ground level. They don't have the larger picture. Returning is the motion of the Tao. Everything is in a constant process of returning to its true state. To really be off the path would mean to be outside of consciousness. There is no such place. I like that. Julie says she would like a portobello mushroom sandwich for lunch, so we cut down to the co-op grocery store where there's a decent sandwich counter. I park my bike and we go in, order, and browse for a few minutes while our food is prepared. I pick up a copy of a New Age magazine. The cover asks the question, what does it mean to be in the world, but not of it? So, says Julie, reading over my shoulder, what does it mean? I thumb through the issue and quickly confirm my suspicions. They're basically redefining the question as, how can one pursue a spiritual life in a material world? According to them, it means, how can you have your cake and eat it too? Which obviously you can't, right? According to them, you can't. This is the householder version renunciate question. This is the householder versus renunciate question. Anyone who wants to repackage enlightenment for mass consumption must first create the illusion that it's comfortably within the consumer's reach. It may be true that the price of truth is everything, but true don't pay the bills. In the commercial model, the price of truth is whatever you can comfortably afford. The magazine I'm holding has brought together quite a lineup of spiritual luminaries to shine their brains on the in-the-world question, which, of course, they must if they hope to convince a sincere and intelligent audience that the absurd is true and the obvious is false. It may sound like an impossible feat, but editors and marketers know that people will buy anything as long as you package it right. Religious architecture is a soaring monument to this truth.
It's funny, I just had a friend on Facebook who focuses so much on the negative. Unfortunately, he's a very, very negative vibrating person. But because he ceaselessly attacks the Mormon church. But one of his attacks is that they spend just multi-millions building their temples.
Yeah.
He's all like, It's like, why aren't they feeding the homeless? Jesus wouldn't do that. Jesus hung out with whores.
Hey, homeless don't pay tithing. I'm not naive about these things. I know that book and magazine publishers aren't in the business of enlightenment, but they're in the business of selling books and magazines. Oh, they're in the business of selling books and magazines. Not true. And they know that seekers will gladly pay to be reassured that, common sense aside, they can wake up and stay asleep. Awakening within the dream state being a much more marketable solution than waking up from it. Such is the state of spiritual publishing today, of spirituality today, and ultimately it's all because ego will do anything to survive. I spend a lot of time in front of the shelves in new and used bookstores, surfing the web, thumbing through magazines, always looking for someone who says things well, who can talk about the state of being enlightened and, more interestingly, the process of getting there. Of course, when the subject is enlightenment, you're pretty much confined to saying what it's not because there's no saying what it is. For every few hundred publications that claim to have something valid to say on the subject, perhaps one does. And for every few hundred spiritual leaders shepherding their adoring flocks ever higher up the mountain, perhaps one will be driving them over the edge and into reality. And perhaps none. That's not to say that all spiritual leaders are unenlightened. Following the same irrational impulse that drives me to try to express what I know, an awakened person might, on rare occasion, become a spiritual leader. But when they do, it's never to enlightenment that they lead. But how do I know? I know that no spiritual teacher leads to enlightenment because there is no leading to enlightenment. There is no teaching of enlightenment. Hence, the inevitable outcome we see all around us. Everyone's grooving on the gurus and everyone's getting more and more spiritual, but nobody's waking up. When it comes to the teachings, you have to take your business to Zen and Advaita because, When it comes to the teachingless teachings, you have to take your business to Zen and Advaita. Being careful to avoid the tourist traps where you can unwittingly walk in circles for years or lifetimes. For instance, Ramana Maharishi prescribed the use of the inquiry, "Who am I?" to be used relentlessly as an auger for drilling down through all the layers of ego and delusion. But this process of self-inquiry has itself become mired in layers of ego and delusion, repackaged for mass consumption. Ramana's students have become teachers, and their students have become teachers, and the diamond at the core, the process of self-inquiry, has become the cheese in a dozen bait-and-switch operations. Those lured in by the simplicity and directness of self-inquiry are sucked into a morass of teachers and teachings, guru and babble, ego and delusion, from which they are not likely to soon emerge. 5 words. Ask yourself, who am I? 5 words that render all other words, including those of Ramana Maharishi, superfluous. 5 words that need no explanation, no amplification, no elucidation. 5 words that bestow upon the recipient self-reliance and self-determination. But a complete spiritual teaching that fits on a matchbook cover is not what anyone really wants. No fame, fortune, and following for the giver, no wiggle room for the receiver, and by what mechanism does such a simple thing as self-inquiry get mangled and bloated beyond all recognition? Ego. Always ego. The fundamental conflict in the spiritual quest is that ego desires spiritual enlightenment, but ego can never achieve spiritual enlightenment. Self cannot achieve no self. That's why anyone who wants to sell enlightenment must first reduce it to more manageable proportions, to something ego can achieve. Enlightenment light. Less demanding, feels great. Enlightenment.
It's cute.
The fundamental conflict can only be resolved by altering the equation. Yes, it's cheating, but everyone's okay with it. The spiritual enlightenment gets redefined as something attainable by ego, and now the equation works to everyone's satisfaction. Ego gets to continue the noble quest, and a thriving spiritual industry continues to thrive. Of course, no one gets the grail, but if you understand the fundamental conflict, you'll see that no one really wanted it anyway. The quest for the grail is about the quest, not the grail.
Yeah, and Abraham Hicks would absolutely agree with that. It's like when you get enlightened, what the fuck are you going to do with the rest of your life?
Right.
You're over. You're done, which is what Jed says. Read a little bit more.
Yeah, we might as well.
Okay.
Listen, here's all you need to know to become enlightened. Sit down, shut up, and ask yourself what's true until you know. That's it. That's the whole deal. A complete teaching of enlightenment, a complete practice. If you ever had any questions or problems, no matter what the question or problem is, the answer is always exactly the same. Sit down, shut up, and ask yourself what's true until you know. In other words, go jump off a cliff. Don't go near the cliff and contemplate jumping off. Don't read a book about jumping off. Don't study the art and science of jumping off. Don't join a support group for jumping off. Don't start a podcast where you sit and read with your dad about jumping off. Don't write poems about jumping off. Don't kiss the ass of someone else who has jumped off. Just jump.
That was pretty clever.
I return to Julie's question about the magazines in the world but not of the world cover. It means what we talked about, I continue. It means that you're playing your role on the stage, but you don't confuse your role with yourself or the stage with reality. It means you know that you're playing a character in a staged production. To switch analogies, it's like lucid dreaming. You achieve normal waking consciousness within the dream so that you're in the dream, but not of the dream. I doubt that's what they'll say in the magazine, she says. Doesn't matter, I reply. There's no benefit to understanding it. It's something you're familiar with because it's your reality, or you're not because it isn't. I thumb through the magazines and I see ad after ad peddling books and teachers and products in a pornographic mockery of man's desire to know the truth. Moneylenders in the temple. What would they say about it in your magazine? I ask. How to be a householder and a recluse at the same time, I suppose, but that's not possible, is it? If you mean, can you get a deal on enlightenment? Can you be awake without having to wake up? The answer is no. If you mean, can you live a spiritual, compassionate life and still raise kids and have a house and a stock portfolio and a demanding career and all that? I assume the answer is yes, but it's really not my thing.
Might as well finish this chapter.
Ready?
Yeah.
Our code name, Beatrice, is called, meaning our sandwiches are ready. What do you think of people? Asks Julie. I'm a little surprised by her question, and I just stare at her, open mouth. You don't have to answer now, she says. Just think about it, and maybe we can talk about it while we eat. Okay. There's no seating in the co-op, so I grab an extra plastic bag at the checkout, and we sit at a picnic table nearby using the bags to keep our butts dry. I have ordered a roast beef sandwich that caused Julie to look at me somewhat askance, surprised, I suppose, that I'm a carnivore. The trees are dripping on us a little, but we don't seem to mind. I see people the same way vampires do. Julie chokes. As food? She asks around a mouthful of sandwich. Oh, yeah, sorry. Not as food. No, the vampire analogy has a few bugs in it. I forgot about the blood-sucking thing. I think that's a pretty big part of it, she says. So how do vampires see people? As partial. Half alive, half awake. Potentially awake, but not. Like zombies? I don't know. That seems like too much. On the other hand, I look back at my own life before enlightenment, and zombie doesn't seem too bad. Like I was sleepwalking, or like I was alive, but I wasn't there. That sounds backward, but that's what it's like. Let's use lucid dreaming again. If you woke up inside a dream, how would you see the other people in the dream? How seriously would you take things? She's chewing very slowly. I think she's paying attention. I return to the stage analogy. Imagine you're in the audience watching a play, and you slowly come to realize that the actors don't know they're actors. They think that they're normal people going about their normal lives, unaware that they're on a stage performing. You could never even believe such a thing would be possible if you hadn't been up there yourself, believing the same thing. That would be pretty weird, she agrees. So you're sitting here with me right now, and we're both up on the stage, and from your perspective, it's like being with oh, that's why you seemed uncomfortable when you heard the question. You didn't want to call me a zombie. That's so sweet. I give her my aw shucks man grin. I don't know, maybe. I don't mind answering any question as honestly and accurately as I can. That's my thing, but it's just not always possible. Just saying that I view people as half asleep, or the Tao says, as straw dogs.
Sorry, I read it as cow.
That's funny. doesn't come close to addressing the larger question of who I am and what the stage is and what the other players are doing. So yeah, to me, unawake people are sort of not really present. But if you think about it, this is the place for that. What on earth is the point of being enlightened on earth? If anything is a little goofy, it's sitting in the audience of a dramatic event that is performed solely for the amusement of the performers. Really, if anyone at this table could be reckoned in any sense lesser, it would be me, because I'm the one who walked off the stage in a huff saying, I don't want to play anymore. Damn, she says. Well, that's really just the beginning. The difference between us isn't that I'm enlightened and you're not. The difference between us is that I know it and you don't. I possess selfless awareness and you don't. I know that's starting to sound like guru speak, but it's the simple truth. The truth is identical for both of us. I haven't achieved a better status than you. When you hear someone say this, searching for enlightenment is like fish in the ocean struggling to find water, this is what they mean. One fish may not know it, and one fish may know it, and another may not, but they're both swimming in an ocean of water and always were. Damn, she says. We eat in silence for a while. I haven't done this much talking at a stretch in recent memory, and I'm getting tired of hearing my own barbaric yap. When we're done eating, we clean up our mess and stroll up the hill away from town to a small park. I'm thinking about this theater of yours, she says, leaving it hanging. Yeah? It's not like your higher self you're talking about, right? You're not saying, I understand. No, it has nothing to do with hierarchy of souls or the different planes of consciousness or higher and lower self and all of that. From the seat in the audience I'm describing, everybody is on stage, whether they're in a body or not, on the physical plane or the astral plane or the Buddhic plane or whatever. Those are just the broader dimensions of the same dramatic event. So if I just became instantly enlightened right now, just out of the blue, which despite countless claims to the contrary can't happen, but go ahead. A lot of people say it does. A lot of people say it does. A lot of people say a lot of things. I'm sure they believe it. But you don't? I don't operate at the level of belief. I might guess that there are never more than 50 truth-realized beings on Earth at any moment, and I might suspect that most of them have the sense to keep their mouths shut about it. But what I know is that none of them became truth-realized except through a slow and agonizing process of self-annihilation. What about all the teachers and gurus that say, when someone says that they became enlightened in an instant, they're probably talking about the transformation brought on by a transcendental experience. An experience of mystic union, or some variation of it. It's powerful and can be quite transformative, but it's not enlightenment. Enlightenment isn't flashy, and it doesn't just occur like an epiphany. What about students of Zen? You always hear those stories. Yeah, I think of Jomi, the BAM factor. There's no such thing as instant enlightenment any more than there's such a thing as an instant baby. Storks don't really deliver babies, and there's no enlightenment fairy hovering over Zen monasteries or anywhere else. It's easy to see how the idea would catch on, but there's only one way a caterpillar becomes a butterfly. No depth of insight into what it's like to be a vampire can ever make you a vampire. In terms of Plato's cave, those who have stared into that fire that illuminates the cave will naturally believe that they've arrived at the source. But the fire is a mere spark of the sun that illuminates all, including the mountain that houses the cave. Damn, she says. Then she takes a sly look. Has it ever occurred to you that you might be, what's a good way to say it? Mentally, nuts? I laugh. Insane? It's about time somebody asked. Well, let's think about it. I basically believe that I know everything and that nobody else knows anything. I think I'm sane and everybody else is insane. I've never met another person like me, and I have to search through centuries and civilizations to find anyone similar. The greatest men and women who have ever lived are just children on a playground to me. I think that I know the mind of God, and the universe does my bidding, and that all of creation exists for my amusement. But by what possible definition of the word am I not insane? She just stares at me. So I ask, what was your question before I interrupted? She continues to stare. I totally forget. Cool.
Nice.
Big chunk.
Fire off questions if you got them. Otherwise, we'll wrap it up.
We'll be starting with right here, right now, next week. Page 141.
At the top of the page. Any last thoughts?
No, this is really good. So to have gone over it so many times individually is one thing, but then to go over it with another person is like,
Yeah, do you remember when he gave, ironically, he gives advice to Julie in the next book, this Julie, and says, send your musings to me as if I'm reading them, write them for someone.
Yeah.
Like, this is kind of that, like having a witness, having me, having the world watch us.
Yeah.
Add something to it.
Yeah, that's why. Yes, exactly. Yeah, and it'd be interesting if. Sorry, I just had an idea. But yeah, I essentially this process is about having a little bit of a witness while we consume stuff.
Yeah.
Process.
The process of going over it with you, I get things out of it that I've been missing.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
Recommended, but at the same time, like we said at the very beginning of the series, right? Is this just a jerk off? Are we avoiding the actual process and work?
Definitely.
And I don't think we are. I mean, that's fine. I could find out later, 10 years from now, oh, God, I was jerking off.
Oh, by doing, like, would we have been better by not doing this rather than doing it?
Yeah.
No, I don't believe that.
No. Okay. Yeah, everybody.
Or else we'd not be doing it.
No.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, we'll see you next Monday. We're now on the Monday schedule as we head into the cold depths of winter. Hope you guys are all enjoying the Church of Truth, the Truth Quest. And if you are having insights along the way, please share them up.